Mayor of Ontario, Canada, Doug Ford. Premier, thanks so much for joining us. What's your view of the Secretary's comments, and how do you expect they will impact the upcoming trade negotiations between the U.S. and Canada?
Well, first of all, Wolf, thanks for having me on. And, you know, Mr. Lutnick can say whatever he wants, and we know one thing. Canadians love Americans. I love Americans. We love the U.S., and I know Americans love Canadians. I've spent 20 years of my life in the U.S. We just have to move forward and make a deal. And as for the imbalance, I'll tell you the actual facts. The facts are, if we didn't ship 4 million barrels of oil down to keep people moving in their cars and in their trucks and so on and so forth, there'd be a $30 billion surplus that the U.S. has on Canada. And as for Ontario, just Ontario alone, Wolf, that 9 million Americans wake up every morning to produce a product, a widget, or a service just for Ontario. And the more tariffs that come, you're just taxing American people. We see the oil prices going through the roof. We see the cost of cars going through the roof. We see every single good that is being sold in the U.S. Everything is increasing because of the tariffs. I want a great USMCA deal that benefits both. You can't unscramble an egg that's been around for generations and decades. You have to make the omelet larger. That's our philosophy. And we're going to continue negotiating in good faith. And we won't be calling each other names, I promise you that.
Premier, I want to play how one U.S. Senator questioned the Commerce Secretary Lutnick about his remarks. Listen and watch this.
Secretary Lutnick, last week, you said about Canada's economic strategy, and I quote, "They suck." We have a lot of businesses in New Hampshire, small businesses who work on both sides of the border. We have all those Canadian visitors who are not coming because of your comments and comments by the administration. How does that help our economy?
It is outrageous that Canada will not put U.S. spirits on the shelf. It is insulting.
It is.
And disrespectful to America.
How do you respond to that, Premier?
Well, I guess what's disrespectful, we never started this tariff war, and I don't believe the American people did. It was Secretary Lutnick, followed by President Trump as well, that attacked our joint economies because we're so integrated. And if it wasn't for Canada, you know, the prices of oil would be going through the roof right now. You wouldn't have the uranium for your nuclear capabilities because it all comes from Canada. You wouldn't have the high-grade nickel that comes from Ontario for manufacturing. 70% comes from Ontario, along with the autos. As you see, the auto costs are going through the roof. There wouldn't be electricity to send, which we send down to New York, 1.5 million homes and businesses, to New York State, to Michigan, and Minnesota. And I want to ship more energy down there because I know many states don't have enough energy to build their AI capabilities. The potash for your farmers comes from one place. It comes from Canada. And the list keeps going on and on and on. And no country in the world buys more products and more goods off the U.S. than Canada does, and vice versa. We're each other's number one customer, if you want to call it. That's the way it should be, because you see what's going on around the world. There's one country that stands shoulder to shoulder for the last 200 years with the U.S., and that's Canada. We love the Americans. I love the Americans, and I know Americans love us. I was down in Texas a couple of weeks ago. They rolled out the red carpet, and they made us feel right at home. And any American wants to come up to Canada, be it Toronto or other places, I will roll out the red carpet, welcome them with open arms, because we're like part of the family. And when one family member, one in particular family member, be it President Trump, attacks our whole country, that's a problem. But we don't hold it against the American people. We have the two greatest countries on earth.
Yeah, I grew up on the border with Canada in Buffalo, New York, and Ontario was someplace I would go all the time, just cross the Peace Bridge with my family. So it's true, we all love Canada, and I know the Canadians love the United States. As you know, Secretary Lutnick is not alone in criticizing Canada's trade policy towards the U.S. Let's watch how President Trump talked about your country in the beginning of his second term. Listen to this.
Canada is very, we're not treated well by Canada. Canada is very tough. They're very, very tough to do business with, and we can't let them take advantage of the U.S. What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state. If people wanted to play the game right, it would be 100% certain that they'd become a state.
Is there anything the Canadian government, and including you in Ontario, can do right now or wants to do to try to improve the relationship with the Trump administration and in turn with the United States more broadly?
Well, we want to get to the table and again have a free and fair trade agreement with our closest friends and allies. And as for tourism, you mentioned before, the Americans are losing out on tens of billions of dollars, no matter if it's going down to Florida or going to Las Vegas or any other place that we go, because there's so many marriages that one side's Canadian, one side's American, or vice versa. It's unfortunate that Canadians are boycotting spending tens of billions of dollars in the U.S. This can come to a quick end. Everyone can thrive and prosper. I have a recommendation for President Trump. Take a page out of President Ronald Reagan, the greatest president the U.S. has ever seen. He was about making sure we open up trade, not just to Canada, but everywhere in the world. And that stirs the economy. That creates more opportunities. It creates more jobs for the American people. That's what he needs to focus on. I noticed he has a big picture of Ronald Reagan beside him. Maybe he should have a conversation with him or pull up some of the conversations Ronald Reagan had with the American people. It wasn't about killing trade. It was about expanding trade. And if you took a page out of Ronald Reagan's book, the whole world would be better, not to mention the relationship with Canada and the U.S.
Yeah, good point. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, always good to have your perspective. Thanks very much for joining us. Pamela.
Well, thank you
Just
so much.
ahead. Thank you so much. Just ahead, we have some